Hi, my name is John Willis, also known as Botchagaloop. I'm the VP of Customer Enablement for a company called Socketplane, socketplane.io. Yeah, so we started this company literally about 2.5 months ago. Basically, what we're doing is providing software-defined networking for Docker containers. In general, it's for containers, but this offering and demo I'm going to give you here is an overview of what we call our technology preview. So it's our first offering, open source. Everything's in GitHub. Everything you see is real. I am actually videotaping this and talking it through as I go through, just because I can't do two things at once. So I'm going to go ahead and do a git clone of our repository, github.com socketplane. This repo is called Socketplane. So now we've got that, and I've got a repository called Socketplane. So we'll cd into there. We'll take a look. A couple of things to note. All the sources available if you're a hacker. Create pull requests, have a party. The README, we're building on it, so we've just created the technology preview today. Actually, today is Christmas Eve, 2014, so it's actually now Christmas Day. It's 12:49. That's how dedicated I am. Now the kid's in bed, I'm having to pack packages. So take a look at the README, it'll give you some overview, show you some of the commands that we're doing here. But I also want to show you the Vagrant file. So at this cut, there's a couple of things. We have some environment variables. Don't worry about them anymore because we actually, during our testing, our Docker image wasn't public. So that's all. You don't need to worry about these variables. We'll be pulling these out here. We run, just to give you a heads up, we run as a container on a host. So as part of the install of the agent, we install a container and then start up our agent, our daemon, our Socketplane daemon on that host. But a couple of things I did, there are some scripts, you might want to take a look at those. What I did want to show you is in our default Vagrant file, the default config, we'll start 3 nodes by default. But if you want to actually start less or more, 2 or 1, you can set this environment variable called socketplane underscore nodes. And what we'll do is we'll actually create, in this example, if you just say Vagrant up, we'll create a socketplane -1, socketplane -2, and -3, all 3 separate VMs. And so make sure you have enough memory on your laptop if you want to do the default. And we're going to go ahead and pull our Ubuntu 14.10 box image from our Socketplane S3 bucket. A couple more things. You want to make sure you're not using NAT for your network interface. So we've got that set up for you for all the defaults here. There's some other things. There's some one-offs in this one Vagrant if you want to set up just a Ubuntu box or a Red Hat, Fedora. Again, you can take a look at this Vagrant file at your own leisure. So what we're going to go ahead and do is, to get started, one of the first things I like to do is just make sure everything is clean. So I'm just going to do a Vagrant global status, and nothing should be running. So good. So we've got that. So we'll just go ahead and do the Vagrant up, which is the default. Like I said, it's going to start 3 VMs on my laptop here. A Socketplane 1, a Socketplane 2, and a Socketplane 3. And through the magic of video editing, now we'll skip about 10 minutes of install time. So depending on how long it takes for your bandwidth, and if it's the first time you're downloading from the S3 bucket before you create the box. And now you can see we've got the 3 Socketplane 1, Socketplane 2, so we have our 3 VMs. So now I'm going to SSH into Socketplane 1. So what we're going to do is create some Docker. We're going to create some logical networks on these 3 hosts. Right? We're going to have some fun doing kind of SDN-ish stuff with multiple hosts. So the first thing we'll do is we're SSH'd into Socketplane 1. So I'll show you just the Socketplane command. If I run the Socketplane command by itself with nothing, it'll just come up with a help, or I put in help. We have an install, uninstall, a clean install. I'll show you that later. Deps is a good command to show you what's installed, what's not installed as dependencies. Start, stop, remove, attach. As you'll see, some of the commands we're actually running as a wrapper on top of Docker. We actually plan on, once Docker supports the native extensions, we won't run as a wrapper. We're only doing that now just because we want to get this preview You notice I ran the Socketplane info command, and there's nothing running. So we got a empty list there. So what we're going to do is I'm going to go ahead and start. You see, I got this sudo Socketplane run busybox. So I started this busybox container. So I'm starting my first container here on this Socketplane 1 virtual host, right? So we have that first container. Now we can kind of look at what Socketplane thinks about this. So if we do a Socketplane info, it'll show us here that we went ahead and created our first. So we call this zero-touch provisioning. So what happened was it created your first container in a logical network. Actually, it's a network called default by default. And we got a 10.1.2 network created, and there's the container ID. So this info command combines a little bit of the Docker inspect information also with some of our network stuff. So I'm going to go ahead and run a second container. And so now we've got 2 containers running on this one virtual host. And if I do the info command, I can see that I have the 10.1.02, which is the first one that I started. And then if I scroll down, I have now a 10.1.03. So I've basically created an overlay. Nothing real exciting. It's all on one host. But I've got 2 containers now, kind of zero-touch provisioned in its own logical network. By default, we put them in the default network. So let's go and attach into 10.1.3, the second container. So in a sense, we're going to kind of log into that container, if you will. And so once we get in there, what we'll go is going to go ahead and ping the 10.1.0.2, the first container that I started, just to show that we've created this kind of isolated logical network. Okay, no rocket science here, but again, what we call zero-touch provisioning configuration. We are using Open vSwitch as the underlying virtual switching fabric, but now we're going to try to get a little more interesting. We're going to open up another tab, and then what we're going to do is we're going to log into the second virtual machine, the Socketplane-2. I'm going to create some more containers. Hey, there we go. So let's get in here. And one of the things I'm going to do here is we're actually using console for our key value metastore. I don't know if we'll be using this forever, but for now, is part of the technology for you. Notice here there's only 2. There actually should have been 3. This is a bug, and I'm going to come back to this later. So turns out this bug is actually a learning opportunity for us. And I did say that this is a technology preview, so it's a bug that has an open issue. We're going to have it all cleaned up. Probably might even have it cleaned up by the time you watch this video. But I'm going to show you a little bit later how, if this happens when you're testing, clean way to fix it. So I'm going ahead and starting the first container on the second box. So now I actually have 3 containers running, right? I have the 2 on Socketplane-1, and I have the 1 here on Socketplane-2. So I have 3 containers in one logical network. And notice here it got the 10.1.4. So I got the 10.1.0.2. and 3 are on Socketplane-1, and 4 is on Socketplane virtual host 3, right? So if everything's working to plan, I should be able to attach to this this third container now running on a second host, right? So multi-host networking for containers. Hey, so let's go ahead and attach into that particular container. And what we should be able to do, if we've got a true tunnel here, is to ping the 10.1.0.2. And yep, that looks good. And of course, 10.1.0.3. So what we've done is created a logical network with 3 containers on 2 hosts. Great. Now what if I want other logical networks, right? So one of the things I can do is, well, let's take a look here real quick at what we've got in terms of, right, yeah, so we knew this. We have, if we do the Socketplane info here, we've got the 10.4. But what now we're going to do is create a new network. So we're going to use the Socketplane network create command. We're going to create a network called web, and we're going to make it on the 10.2 network, all right? because the default was the 10.1, right? So we did that. We created a new network. Awesome. It's called web. Subnet is 10.2.0.0.16. And then we'll just take a look at network list. We've got two networks. We've got our default, which is our 10.1, and then we have our web, which is our 10.2. And now what we'll do is we'll go ahead and actually we're going to create a new container, but now we're going to actually create it not in the default, we're going to create it in the web logical network. So we're creating multiple logical networks. This is kind of SDN-ish stuff that we're doing. And we're just going to run a busy box. And there we go. We have now another container, which actually is the fourth container, but it's the first container running in this second logical network, which is this web network. And so let's do a Socketplane info. We can see here that on this particular box, I have two containers. I have this, sorry for jumping around here, but I got 10.1.0.4, and then now I've got this new 10.2.0.2, which is in the web logical network, right? So we're creating multiple logical networks. And so let's just do a network list. Nothing real exciting here. We've kind of seen this, but we've got the default in the web. Okay, so now we're going to get a little more creative. And we're going to go ahead and create another session. And we're going to log into Socketplane -3, right? Which is our third host, if you will. So we log into there. And so I'm going to go ahead and run a command to run, run a container, right? So I'm going to do a run -n web. I'm going to I'm going to actually try to container in this second logical network, this web network -itd busybox. I'm going to show you something. Remember I was telling you earlier that there's a bug when I did the console command. Notice I didn't get a container ID. So something's not right there. And again, that's a bug. We should have given you an error because we didn't actually create the container. I do the sudo socketplane info. I actually should have run some agent commands here, but I'll do the console members, and I'm going to see that I'm not connected. So this is a bug. We've got this situation. It's some nit between console, the console using it as our key value store, and what we're doing. Like I said, hopefully it's going to be cleaned up before you watch this video. But we did the uninstalled install earlier. So what I'm going to do is actually deinstall the agent here, and I can do a Socketplane uninstall, or the cleanest kind of blows everything out. But I'm going to do Socketplane install. So this is, when I did the Vagrant up, it did an unintended install, but now it's doing an intended install. And just one of the things I want to show you, when you do a Socketplane install, one of the things it's going to do is, and you can do this, you can go to any box and host. It's going to ask you which one is this in the cluster, and you want to make sure that only the first one you want to say yes. So in our Vagrant up, we did that automatically, but if you're installing a manual, you want to make sure that you select. You notice you select the first one, you would say yes, and then all the subsequent hosts you would say no. Now it looks like console, our Socketplane agent is up. We're seeing that all the three hosts are actually have its kind of metadata store, which is our key value store for right now. And so we'll do an info. So everything's good. Again, a little bonus. You got to see how to do a little bit of troubleshooting. You got to see how to do an intended install instead of an unintended install. So now we're going to do what we wanted to do originally, which was a sudo socketplane run -n to the web in the busy box. This will work. We get the container ID. So now we've got this container, and notice here it's on its IP address 10.2.0.3, right? Which is good because now it's part of that web logical network. And so now I take a network list. Again, I see that I have the original date for it, 10.1. So on this third host, all we're doing is running one container, and it's in this web logical network on the 10. It's defined as 10.2. And so let's go ahead and attach into this this container we just created in the Web Logical Network. And once we get in there, we're going to go ahead and ping the other 10.2 on Socketplane 2, right? So we're going to ping 10.2.0.2, and there we're good to go. So this is, like I said, our technology preview, Socketplane. It's all open source. And again, just to recap what we did is, the first thing I did is a vagrant up, and I went ahead and that basically created 3 VirtualBox machines, but we also did an automated install of the Socketplane container, started the edge. We actually installed Open vSwitch, did all that stuff. And then I went into the first host and I created 2 containers. They automatically went into an isolated default network. And then I went to Socketplane 2 virtual hosts and I created another container. And now all 3 of those were in that same logical network. I showed you that I could ping. Then I created another logical network called Web on the second Socketplane-2, and I created a specific container in that one. I went over to Socketplane 3, created another container, and I was able to show that I had a second logical network called Web, so I can create multiple logical networks. In a future demo, I'm going to show you how I'm going to do a LAMP stack where I might have a load balancer network, a web, and a database, and I can do kind of isolating those. And then the other thing you're going to see a lot more in our product, we're using Open vSwitch, where you're going to see a lot of really cool stuff, like we'll be able to do kind of what's called microsegmentation. We'll be able to set up isolation on different network segments like this. So really trying to bring a lot of the really goodness of Open vSwitch and virtual switching fabric to containers, particularly Docker in our first release. So if you have any questions, feel free to send me an email at john@socketplane.io. Certainly, we have our GitHub/Socket, github.com/Socketplane, and our website is socketplane.io. So I hope you enjoy. Like I said, let us know what you think. We'd love to have you hack or help us kind of take this a little bit further. Thanks for listening, and have a happy 2015. I guess our Merry Christmas, but by the time you watch this, that'll be over, and we'll certainly have a great 2015.